It's most exciting for most, but for few it's a challenging um, module because we are now going into the realm of the unseen, as if we haven't done that all the time before when we work with family constellation anyhow. But here we are going to look how our life is in the context of the spiritual world. And we do that to understand ourselves better and our clients and their needs. So, what we see in this module is yesterday we talked about spiritual emotion and emotional healing, foreign energies, and attached spirits. Today we are talking about birth, trauma, birth energies, and the interrupted movement towards the mother in particular. Finally. And in part 3 tomorrow, we talk about the death, past lives, and regression. And I also explained why we are integrating that in our family constellation facilitator training. That has a very strong reason, because you can tackle pretty much all of these traumas in a family constellation setting. And it is wonderful to have representatives to do so, as I have demonstrated or talked about yesterday. You will see that yourself and your clients, they will have all sorts of traumas that are not related to ancestral. Yeah, not everything is related to ancestral trauma. There are other traumas like early childhood traumas, for example, or that you have possessive energies or attached spirits to deal with in your client. I found it most helpful to be able to deal with that. In fact, I found it paramount to be able to deal with that, because my observation was, when you are working with clients in a family constellation on ancestral traumas, and they have their own deep-rooted childhood trauma, it's like a door is closed. They cannot even open the door towards their ancestors, right? They're shut in this way. So here it is indicated to go with your client through whatever trauma they are carrying first, before they can unlock or open the door to look at ancestral entanglement. I have learned this method with the English healer, Malcolm Southwood, who was teaching in Switzerland, where I lived at that time, and a very wise old man who has done this all his life, or half his life, very successful. And I just extracted out of his method these the few things that are really helpful and needed when you work with clients that come for a family constellation to you. So we looked at, and I go briefly through it, healing why. We don't go through that, emotional healing not. I will quickly talk to you about the frequency of emotions, then about the planes of existence, the spiritual colors, and the spiritual world. And that's it for the review. For what we repeat now, the rest you will see on the video. Yeah. So we go through the frequencies of emotions. Let me just quickly find that. Okay. Here. So here's a chart of Dr. Hawkins. I don't know, Michelle and Tamara knew about it. Do you know about it, David and Yuko? Have you heard about it? Yeah, you have seen it, eh? Yeah, okay. So we are also working with this chart because it's very telling while we are working with emotions in family constellation and in trauma therapy or trauma release. There you can see that is what I want to point out at the bottom, which is red, the lowest frequency of emotions, guilt, and shame. This is why in a family constellation we need to find the representative who has this feeling of guilt and shame, which is often disguised as anger and grief. because that is where the root cause is of um, suffering in the family. Yeah, nobody can live in the frequency of guilt and shame. It's too low. The red area is almost unlivable. This is why they adopt other, which are more in the orange and yellow area, other emotions like grief, fear, or desire to be actually functioning in the world, right? If you think, and that's not an emotion that comes up once in a while, that's an underlying current that is defining the frequency that your body is vibrating in, yeah, and your energy field. So um, we most people live below 100 and below 200, so anywhere, and that's more than like due to Hawkins studies, more than 80% or way more than 80% of the world population lives below 80. And to get out of the state, you need to overcome, or everyone needs to overcome their tendencies to this lower states of emotion. And then once you are entering into neutrality, into the green bluish area, then you are come, you see that also in the chakra chart, you come, this is the gate, this is the heart space where it's the gate between the animal nature and the spiritual nature. Then you come into your spiritual beingness. And as higher you go on this ladder, as more you are in your spiritual beingness. Now, we as helpers or healers, we want to be in the state of joy, which is also the hallmark of compassion. And the perception is perfection and creation. Now, you might think, oh, I'm never going to be there. I'm probably not even managed to be courageous enough to put myself out there and in the 200. And that's fine, because you only are in this state while you are working. It doesn't mean that you need to be there all the time. This is a state where you work in. This is the state of unconditional love and joy for the other, meaning you don't see suffering in the other. You don't see what's missing in the other. You see the perfection in your client and their family, because that is their soul journey. Yeah. And that is the wisdom. That is the wisdom that we have or should have when we are helping others from this state of being. So we're not going through that. We're not going through that. We're going through the spiritual worlds now, very briefly. And this is a concept that is very simplified, of course, and even more simplified now in 10 minutes. Yeah. And of course, you may have all your own concepts. That's fine, and you don't need to change that. This is just the concept of which the healing work that I'm teaching is based on. Yeah, so that is a very good simplified concept that has its root in all major wisdom schools and spiritual teachings. They are all the same, and it works. Yeah. So for the sake of us providing help to others, that's how we look at the world in our world. If there's another concept that you rather prefer, you're very welcome to keep it for your own development and journey. But what I can only teach you this method on the base of this concept. Yeah. So in this concept, we have three spiritual worlds, if you will. The first one is Earth, that is the world of experience, and the body belongs to Earth. Then we have the astral world, which is the world of emotions, where the soul resides. And then we have the in-between world. That's actually a fourth world. I have to say we have fourth world. The in-between world, that is the world of attachment and addiction. And then we have the world of light. That is where the innocent live. For example, your and mine and everybody else's spirit. Children, advanced beings, and animals are also residing there in their own ground. Now, let's go further here to the spiritual color. When we are working with let's say spiritual healing, it is very helpful to have these color chart handy. You don't need to memorize it, but you can print it out or have it on your phone and have it there ready to use. We have used it yesterday in the exercise, or we try to use it in the exercise, and um, and that just gives you an idea how every color has its own emotion. So if a client sees a color, that's what you can refer to. Then you know the emotion, the underlying emotion, or the other way around. If the client tells you about it, or the representative, for that matter, tells you about a color, then you know which emotion they have. Mm? And as I said, no need to memorize. I mean, if you can memorize it, that's brilliant. But I still have a printout here on my desk when I work with clients. You don't need to crowd your cloud crowd your head with things that you can also look up while you work. We use these colors when we are detaching spirits and when we are detaching foreign energy, especially. But it comes also handy in a family constellation, especially when you work with figurines who have different colors. For example, I showed you my figurines before. I have I try to have all the spiritual colors on my figurines. This is red, of course, and then I have two 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 kinds of red. I have two kinds of yellow, right? And then it is extremely interesting when the client is picking the figurines that you already have a concept what kind of emotional state this representative is in, and that is also hinting maybe at the relationship or the dynamic they're entangled in. You're welcome to take a screenshot quickly in case we have time and do the exercise again with David and Yuko. Um, we see how it goes. Then you need the spiritual colors. Okay, can I move on? So quickly recap the in-between world is the world of the undead. We're dealing with the undead in a family constellation with representatives who are lying on the floor and have their eyes open. They have their eyes open and they are not looking at somebody because they are relating to them. They have their eyes open and they are looking around and look a little bit confused. Yeah, these are showing that a soul is trapped in the in-between world, between the physical world and the astral world where they belong, which is home for them. In a family constellation, we can also help these souls to find their home just through going through the normal family constellation dynamics that you learn, that you know of. In the wake of it, these souls will be able to move on where they belong. In outside of family constellation, we can help these souls as well um, by showing them the color. You remember the color chart? Color that is representing their emotion that they can go to because that is symbolizing their home in the astral world. No, remember, souls belong in the astral world. That's where they are home, as long as when they have shed their body. Yeah? So after death. Hmm? So the plane of light. There's something I want to point out. This is really important. If you work with a color chart, and if you work with detaching emotions and possessive energies and spirits from clients, do not send anybody in the light. Nobody who is attached is able to go to the light because the light is for the innocent, and they are not innocent. They are either attached or addicted. They have very low frequencies of emotions. Remember the chart from Hawkins. They are somewhere below 150. Nobody who is not reached 700 can go to the light, yeah, as a soul, right? So just remember that. I see this mistake happening a lot, and Just recently in the practice workshop, also a trainee thought to send the souls in the light. Can't do that. Yeah, they will hide. They will not be gone. They will not be freed. You wouldn't have helped them in any way, shape, or form, nor their client. It is always the color, always, and it's not the color white, because the color white is hiding. Yeah, but you see that when you study the chart. So here's a quote for you from Malcolm Southwood, my teacher on this amazing method. Teach me how to love so I can heal. It's also a book title from him. I can highly recommend it. The book is on the list, on the reading list as well. And that is what we want to learn. We want to learn, and love is not, of course, romantic love. We're talking about unconditional love, meaning we love equally everyone. It's out of love. And we don't need to adopt that because we have it in us. We just need to shed everything that is not allowing us to live it. Yeah. So there's nothing to learn about it. There's just shedding, 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 layers and layers and layers of ego tendencies and traumas and concepts and expectations and judgments. If all this is shed, then there is only unconditional love, and that's where we can heal. Yeah, remember the chart. You need to go through the stage, and as I said, it can be, doesn't need to be. You can get angry at your neighbor once in a while. Of course you can. We all do. That's a human experience. But the underlying frequency is unconditional love. Yeah. Meaning you are detecting your own emotions, you are not attached to them, you are not enslaved by your emotions. You are able to, in the moment they come up, you're able to see them and you are maybe able to smile or laugh at them. If you have mastered that, you are there. Yeah. Because the unconditional love also includes yourself, to love you unconditionally and not judge you for what you do. Yeah. And what has happened. So then we were, is there anything? So then we went through the foundations of spiritual healing. Since we don't need to do spiritual, I will actually demonstrate that I think today or tomorrow. Um, anyhow, you see that in the video. That's probably better if you go through that. And the most important thing is mm, that you see the perfection in the client and not the suffering. Yeah, ponder on that. If you see that the client is less than he is, if you see the client is missing something, yeah, if there's something, then you're already judging. You can't be in this state of unconditional love. You can't open your heart to them. You have to see whatever dramatic story they tell and whatever they went through, their sole purpose, and that it has led them there for a good reason that we do not know, neither the client. But we know in the spiritual world this is perfect because creation means not only creating beds of roses, creation means to allow everything to exist, everything. Yeah? Otherwise, it wouldn't be creative. Everything can exist. Hmm? And this is the state from where we can start to help and heal others and ourselves. And then the second foundation is the time needs to be taken away. The trauma that the client is stuck in is a child normally. Yeah, it's early child or it's normally a childhood trauma. They are stuck there, and then they are here. That's a child. There has the adult. That's the client, and there's time in between. Yeah, let's say 40 years. Yeah, in healing, you have to take this 40 years out and bring them into the now together. Yeah. And when they are there, then and stay together, then healing can take place. We cannot heal the child down there from here with the client. Yeah. We need to bring them together. So this is why we never talk in past tense, not in a family constellation, not in a trauma release, always in present tense, always here and now. So we use spiritual healing in a family constellation to release trauma, yeah, either an own childhood trauma or a trauma in the family system, right? We can do the same there. To free souls, as I talked about, the undead, they are um, they are stuck in the in-between world, and to separate attached spirits, and to remove possessive energies that are synonymously to emotion or curses. Curses are in the same category. So you would see on the video how I have demonstrated how to work with attached spirit, and we had also have a little exercise about that. Okay, and here we are, part 2. Today we are talking about birth and the whole process of birth in this concept, how this is combining the spiritual world, about trauma, um, about birth energies, and the movement towards the mother. Like, finally, we have looked at it so often, we have seen it so often in family constellation, but I have never had talked you through the step by step how we perform that. And today is the day where we do. So there is the trauma release we go through, the birth energies, the process of birth, the concept of rebirthing, and then finally the interrupted movement towards the mother in a family constellation. So, what are releasing? What kind of trauma are we releasing? We are releasing childhood trauma. Um, they can be already at conception, yeah, and why you would see that after you saw the animation, all the way to when the child is, let's say, 10 years old or something like that. Yeah? When the child becomes a teenager and the hormones kicking in, then you wouldn't call it a childhood trauma anymore. Family trauma is the same childhood trauma, just in other generations. That's what we address with family constellations. And we are also talking about the subconscious mind today because it plays a vital role in understanding and tackling trauma and the release of trauma. And also very important, we have to look, oh, another spelling error, we have to look at guilt with a T. Again, in this concept, because it is extremely important. So what is a childhood trauma? A childhood trauma is an emotional trauma that occurs when one's ability to walk away from a situation is taken away through physical or psychological force. That meaning the freedom to make choices is taken away, and the emotion of guilt with the T, sorry for that, or shame is present. Yeah. That is how we define in this concept a childhood trauma. Emotional trauma happens in childhood because a child can, by definition, not walk away from the situation. It is helpless, normally. Hmm? And often the traumas are related to their parents or other relatives. Hmm? So childhood trauma is rarely occurring. Of course, it can occur in an accident or in a severe attack from somebody else, from a teacher or a priest, or as a sexual abuse or something like that. But the most cases are actually happening in the family. And that doesn't even mean that the parent mean to traumatize the child, as we know from the interrupted movement towards the mother. It can be just a result of a life situation that the parents don't even notice, yeah, is causing a trauma for the child. For example, talking about abortion when the child is in the womb. Yeah, that is causing an early childhood trauma that parents are not aware of. They are in alpha state or in theta state, depends on their age, and exposed to suggestion. And with the suggestion comes guilt. And then nobody has to tell them they are guilty. Most of them don't because they don't think so, but they perceive it as such. For example, the baby in the womb hearing, no, not with their ears, but perceiving from a spiritual perspective, their soul perceives that the parents want to kill it or discussing to kill it, right? Because I don't know, they cannot afford a child, or they want to separate, or whatever reason, or they feel they are too young, or whatever reason. Then the child feels guilt for its existence, yeah, that it causes this trouble to their beloved parent. Hmm? And then what a childhood trauma is also makes a childhood trauma is that they cannot remember the event because the event is tucked back in the subconscious mind, and they're very well locked up. So with their conscious mind, they cannot access it at all. That is also, by definition, part of a trauma, childhood trauma in this case. A family trauma comes from an entangled person through one of the three dynamics, entanglement dynamics in family constellation, who has experienced an act of violence or emotional trauma themselves. Hmm? It is an unacknowledged disorder in the family system that is not balanced, often leads to a family secret. Not often, let's say it can lead to a family system, I would rather say. It is always the fear of dying that creates a trauma, either de facto or perceived. That goes for every trauma. Many traumas are like from an outside view, from an adult view, nothing. Like, how can that even be frightening? Yeah. But from the child's perspective, in the situation they are in, when these, when they were had the feeling they can't get away, they had the feeling of guilt because they thought their existence or what they have did is causing trouble for the parents, and they fear that they are going to be expelled by it, which is the fear of dying. For a child, obviously, they cannot survive without the support of the family. Like on a I'm not talking about society. I'm talking about the roots of fear, where this emotion comes from very, very early days, animal nature. Often the trauma is perceived, not de facto. Yeah. However, in family constellation, it is most often de facto because we are normally dealing with somebody who has actually been killed. Hmm? It doesn't show up very often, very rarely, I have to say, a trauma that is not that somebody has been killed or be a disadvantage. We talked about that somebody has had a massive disadvantage through actions of somebody else, which we call the perpetrator, and the victim relationship. That is default. That is normal. When we deal with childhood trauma, obviously the client is still alive, so they haven't been killed, they didn't die, but they perceived it at that time as if they would. This leaves a deep wound in the soul, and this is, as we know, passes on to the next generation through epigenetic inheritance. We need to heal not only our own traumas, but also so we have, we're going to past lives tomorrow, but we have also past life traumas that we also heal. So we have past life traumas, we have our own childhood traumas, and then we have the traumas of our ancestors. Yeah. And all three of them needs healing in order to go ahead in life and and do what we are supposed to do, create from unconditional love, from an open or from joy, actually 600 on the scale, from a joyful state of being. And we cannot reach this state of unconditional love and joyful beingness when we are held back and are trapped here with a trauma and the emotion fear, which is the emotion that is attached to a trauma. Yeah. On what was the list? Here, 150 or something like that, 175, something around there, or 125. The most common family trauma, but also in a childhood trauma, so that is most often both, is the interrupted movement towards the mother. And that's why we have so many of them in family constellation workshops. Emotion is fear or anger, camouflaging shame or guilt with a T. Yeah? Now let's look at trauma and guilt. Sudden happenings which causes trauma can be released immediately. You, there is no need to adopt this feeling of guilt when you are startled, for example. Yeah. Let's say, you're in a city and you didn't look properly and you take a step towards the road and a car runs by and it's very, very close and you thought you almost could have hit. You know how you have this shock from that? Hmm? That, as an adult, you can release immediately. Most often crying, and we see that in family constellations, of course, a lot that traumas are released through crying, but it can be also shaking or deep breathing. Deep breathing. The animals release any kind of shock, this kind of shock, through shaking. That's what they do. Dogs shake, ducks shake, they or shiver or shake. This is the way to release their shock energy so it doesn't manifest as a trauma. If it hasn't released, it will manifest itself in the body and also scars, if you will, the soul with the wound. So if you have just this happening that startles you, you can release it. But if it is combined with guilt, it becomes almost impossible to release it. It is immediately tucked away by the subconscious mind because, as we said before, nobody can live with this feeling of guilt or shame. So it needs to be taken out, but it can't go away because it's there. It's created in the moment of the shock. Yeah. Let's say, let's say in this example with the car, you walk with your child, yeah, in the same situation and you are careless, hmm, and you are coming and you step with your child onto the road and didn't see the car and the car comes so close and this almost um, um, hit your child, yeah, or maybe even injured it, or maybe even killed it, yeah. This guilt that you were responsible for that, you cannot continue to live with that. So you would tuck that away in the subconscious mind. Of course, as an adult, you would remember that, but now think of all of that as a child, yeah. They don't have the means to contemplate on that. They don't have the means to understand what's going on. They also don't have the means to do anything about it. The only remedy they have and the only way they can go on and live their life is if they put it in their subconscious mind immediately. And that's what is happening. The subconscious mind, we talk about that later, um, will has this ability to twist and turn facts and releases later memories of the trauma in form of phobia or allergies. That's the most common um, um, signs of a trauma, and that is stuck in the body. Yeah? So, what is the guilt? in the family constellation, then, we talked about that earlier, how important that is to find the one who has the guilt, because this is hinting at one of the three entanglement dynamics strongly. Which one was that? That's a question.
Victim perpetrator.
You remember the three, I hope so, the three entanglement dynamics. What are they? Let's repeat that. Is there?
I follow you.
Yes?
Atonement of sin.
Hmm?
Oh, it's rather me than you.
Very good, Misha. Now, which one out of that, in which one out of that we see the guilt as a leading hint for which dynamic we have?
It's rather me than you.
No, it's atonement
No,
for
it's atonement. Huh? Yes,
yeah,
it's the
you're right.
atonement of sin.
Atonement for sins. Very good. Well, you remembered almost everything. That's great. Awesome. Um, everybody else, go and recap our entanglement dynamics. So when we have a representative in the family constellation who shows this signs of guilt, what are the signs of guilt in the family constellation? We talked about that as well. What is the representative doing? Mara?
Um, it's feeling that not belonging, of not being interested for the situation, turning
Mm,
away. No,
no,
that's the perpetrator.
exactly. Exactly.
Ah,
I'm sure you know it. Just not
it's
coming to mind.
it's the sense of like not clarity there, like they cannot connect there.
Yeah,
No,
they
it's
cannot
not.
connect. Yeah, they look around, they look to the floor, they look around.
Yeah.
They might look like this, a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
shrunk a little bit. They don't look strong. Yeah, that's the
Mm-hmm.
signs. And when you ask them, they will tell you that they feel guilty.
Mm-hmm.
No, so that's the strongest hint that they actually say it. Of course, other representatives also feel shame and guilt, but this is a very strong hint to this dynamic, especially when it's the first representative that you work with, which is normally the one um, who is telling us what kind of entanglement dynamic we see. Gives us the best hint or the first sign. So, yeah, they are observed as unable to look at or go to others, which has been wrong, right? So, therefore, other family members, our descendants and our client are taking over the role to feel the guilt, to look at the victim, and to connect with them for the entangler. The entangled person has the same symptoms as if it would be an own childhood trauma of theirs. Yeah? So let's talk about the subconscious mind. And of course, it's a super simplified, and I'm not a psychiatrist, and I'm just, basic structure, which we can work with when we do our work by releasing trauma. Yeah. So the three general functions of the subconscious mind, the first one is growth, maintenance, and repair of the body. Obviously, because we don't need to think about growing. We don't need to think about heart beating or any other organs doing their job. They all do it in their own way. Yeah. We don't need of healing our wounds. The body is capable of doing that without our conscious mind being involved. Our conscious mind is also not being involved in repetitive behavior. That is also the subconscious mind who is steering that. You know that many examples, we also call that body memory. The best example is when you drive always the same way to work, that you often one day you don't even remember how you went there. Right? You were dreaming, you were doing this, you were doing that, looking around, and it's almost like the car drove on its own. And that's because the subconscious mind took over, and your conscious mind didn't need to think about it because subconscious mind has learned repetitive behavior. Hmm? So that is all the job of the subconscious mind to release the conscious mind from as many tasks as possible so it can focus on the challenges that the mind is not used to. Hmm? And then it has a third function, the subconscious mind, and that is to avoid pain, physical and emotional pain. And that is what we deal with in trauma. We have this emotional pain, and it's the subconscious mind's role to deal with it in a way that we are not feeling that anymore. Hmm? The subconscious mind needs a trigger. We can access also subconsciously access the subconscious mind through triggers, and we have to be very, very careful that we are not mixing up the trauma and the trigger. We only see the trigger, not the trauma. The trauma is hidden away. See the trigger. No? The subconscious is concerned with your survival, not your happiness. Mark that word. Yeah. This is super important to understand why trauma happens. You think, well, if I could access my trauma and I could deal with it, that would be it. I bring it to my conscious mind, or my conscious mind takes over, I can deal with it and it will be gone. And I would be happy. That's not what the subconscious mind wants. The subconscious mind wants that you survive, and survive is only without pain. For example, pain of guilt. As you know, it's so low in vibration that survival in the state of guilt is not. And the subconscious mind knows that. So it doesn't want you to remember anything about the event and about the emotion of guilt. Nothing. It doesn't care about your happiness. Yeah. That is something your conscious mind cares about, but not your subconscious. So you have to work for it. You have to get the reins back and take over. So you follow the path of happiness, and you can, and that's what we do. We can override the subconscious mind. Of course, we have some tricks up our sleeves to do that. So the panic attack, most people have in one shape or the other. Um, the signs of an underlying unreleased childhood trauma is that they have panic attacks. Can be in a very different life context, but this is a sign of it's a trigger, and that so somebody gets a panic attack triggered by something that the subconscious mind has mixed up with the trauma and kind of twisted and torn it around. And now this whatever happens causes a panic attack because it reminds subconsciously of the trauma. But it's not the same situation. It will never be the same situation because the subconscious mind has ways to tuck the trauma away. So in windy roads and or different drawers that it is not able to pull that out and sort it back to the event. Yeah, that's our job. The subconscious mind cannot do that, or will not do it. Let's put it that way. It takes enormous energy to suppress emotions of fear or guilt because it has this low frequency. If you look at the chart, as lower the frequency is, as more energy the body needs, or your energy field, your needs to keep you going, to keep you going. That means as higher you come, as more energy you have, because you need less energy to suppress subconsciously unreleased trauma. Therefore, you also see in people who are suffering traumas, they have less energy, and they will be emotionally weak, and they fall ill often, for example. Yeah. You only experience the trigger, not the trauma. Yeah. This is often, I see that mixed up, but that's two completely different shoes. Yeah. The work is to go back and find where the trauma is originated, meaning find the guilt with a T and release it there. Yeah. The trauma is just showing us that there is. The trigger is just showing us that there is a trauma. Childhood traumas are released in our method, the way I teach you, through regression, which we look at in tomorrow. Yeah. A family trauma is released in family constellation. So before we go into birth energies, I just have to quickly get something for my throat. So bear with me a second or a minute.
Hey guys, how are you?
Hi.
Morning, everybody.
Hey David, you okay? I was not there on the beginning, so I don't know what happened.
No, I just got my days mixed up yesterday.
Yeah, me
was-
too, almost. Yeah.
Yeah, you texted me, so you got it all right. I was working, so I was not attending. So, yeah.
Yeah, I woke up 1 hour too early.
Uh,
It's okay.
the-
Even
the-
earlier.
The irony for me was that I woke up at 5 o'clock, so I could have done it, but I didn't. I thought I was on a different day in my head.
Mm. No, you were
crazy.
not supposed to be there. Yeah. But
Everything
it's
for a
it's
reason.
yeah, but it's filmed, so actually was very for me was very nice. I love this area of spirits. And for me it was very nice yesterday. I
Hmm.
love this. It was like demystifying also some things for me, very nice.
Ah, very nice. Looking forward to see that. The
Yeah, you
video.
know,
Yeah.
the realm of not visible energies. Very nice. Yeah, very nice. Yeah, we missed you. I missed you a little bit. Okay.
I missed myself.
Good. Okay. So we are going to birth energies and rebirthing now. So what is the birth? The birth is a change from the non-physical reality into the physical reality. We have to look at the heart, plays a major aspect in our life. No wonder it just comes to mind that so many songs and literature and paintings around hearts, right? That is for a reason. I will introduce you to the concept of birth energies if you haven't had any, if you have never had heard of that before. That's going to be very interesting for you. We will look at how a human being is created, and we will also think about rebirthing and the interrupted movement towards the mother. So birth energy. So energies are everything, everywhere. I mean, we are all energy. Everything is energy. Energy and information, as a quantum physicist. There are, of course, energies are varying. It's like they have different qualities, frequencies, as we know, vibration. There is a specific energy for birth. That is, only women have that, and only children have that in the moment that the birth starts. Meaning, when the water breaks, the first contractions come, or the cervix opens. These birth energies are bursting. Otherwise, no woman and no child would ever make it through this unlikely event to bring such a head out of such a small, um, um, tube, if you will, yeah, the birth canal. This all has to work with enormous energies to make that happen for this time. In a normal, and then we talk, I have different slides for that. We talk about the birth energies in a normal birth, and then the birth energies, how do we deal, what is happening with the birth energies in a fast, interrupted, and forced birth, and also in a slow and traumatic birth, as well as cesarean section, we will talk about. And of course, also postpartum depression. So a normal birth, like normal, what is normal? A natural birth, let's say. Yeah, takes 6 to 8 hours. It releases a huge amount of instinctive birth energies in both mother and baby. The baby needs these energies to go through the birthing channel to stabilize the spirit in the body. You will see that later. The baby needs to use up all birth energies by struggling to move out of the womb, and mother uses her power to push the baby out. So the birth energies that have created for this event are used for what they are intended. Because if they are not used for what they are intended, they can't go away. They are stuck energy, yeah? Because they are only there for this purpose and are not transforming in anything else. The baby has to stay uninterrupted, remember the normal natural birth with the mother until the colostrum has been delivered. That's part of the birthing process, part of the birth energy, where the present, and then the baby has also comes always, this glow in babies. That is actually protective shield of light for several weeks that it's surrounding them, and it has to stay, or it should stay, ideally with the mother in the so-called 40 days bed, meaning 40 days, mother and child together, and should not be allowed to be handled by other people other than briefly, yeah. Not giving it away to a nanny, for example, or something like that. That would be the natural birth, like how the energies and how the design is of mother and child. That's how they are designed energy-wise. Because otherwise this protected shield cannot be sustained. The father at this stage doesn't need to be involved at all from a spiritual perspective of the baby. Yeah, of course, can be socially be involved, but it is important to understand that the birth energy has nothing to do with the father, right? There's no involvement in that. So, how is a human being created? Now, here we have our physical body. We learned yesterday that the physical body belongs to Earth. And we have the astral body, and the astral body, or the soul, belongs to the astral plane. And we have the spiritual body, who belongs to the world of light. The higher self needs to be, let's call the spiritual body the higher self, right? Needs to be reunited with the astral body, which is left behind at the end of the last life to go home to the light. So the spiritual body resides in the light, yes, innocent. All the emotions are with the soul in the astral world in their color of the emotion they last have become. That's where they reside. And then the physical body, as we all know, goes back to dust and becomes matter again, earth again. Yeah. The soul, however, needs to learn the planned lesson in the new body and therefore has to be in line with the karma of mother and father. That needs to be sussed out somehow in the astral world. Yeah. That they come back to this mother and this father who can give them these life circumstances where they can have their unique experience that they need or want to have in this lifetime to evolve from one emotion to the other, climbing up the ladder of the emotion frequency. Yeah, that's the purpose of rebirth. And the body, on the other hand, needs to be stable and genetically intact, and also align with the genetics of the family, because it makes it easier for the child to be healthy and be born. This is also the reason why we often incarnate in our own families, and why we have in family constellation, although we don't see that if we don't, have no special science for it, dealing actually with often with other lifetimes of, let's say, the client, yeah, because they like to if we go back further, they like to reincarnate in the same family, but not necessarily in direct line. It can be a cousin or something like that. So now this is the structure, our backbone, if you will. Now what happens is in the week 1 to 12, the physical body develops, and the heart is the first organ to develop out of the vein and the artery. It's magic how they come together, and the heart forms at the knot where they come together. If you haven't seen an animation yet or a video, you have to watch it. Mesmerizing how this is happening. So why would the heart be the first organ to be developed in the embryo as early as week 5? So there is not even any reason for blood to be delivered anywhere, because there's nothing else. There are no limbs, there's nothing. You would ask, okay, what's the purpose of the heart here? Now, the purpose of the heart from a spiritual level is to pump. And you can see the heartbeat in the ultrasound as early as 5 to 6 weeks. When the heart is capable to create a strong and this pumping is creating a strong electromagnetic field that you can measure. Everybody can measure. That's not a secret. Yeah, everybody can measure the electromagnetic field of a heart. This attracts and holds the soul from the astral world, because a soul cannot move. There is no physical something about it, yeah? But it can be attracted passively, it can move passively. And the heart is attracting the soul to be able to come closer to the body, to eventually unite with the new body. In week 13 to 16, that is when most pregnancies are stable, the soul actually, the heartbeat is so strong that the soul is actually, if you will, coming in the body. So that is also when most pregnant women feel that they are pregnant. They feel that there's something like a personality inside of them. That is the moment when the soul comes. And that's also why abortions normally happening, not abortions, miscarriages, naturally normally happen before the 12th week, because there is not enough strong bond to the soul, of course, and other genetic issues or whatnot. Yeah. So then, and the soul doesn't need to be worried about getting out again. So they wait until this body is more stable, and that is signalized by a stronger heartbeat that then attracts them in, so they are stable and together. In the week 17 to 40, while the baby is growing, the spirit comes now in as well, but it's not in the body. The spirit is around the body. Just it's observing what's happening there. Yeah, it's not needed at this stage, and it's the higher self is always is always there to watch and observe and to guide and to on the soul journey. Once the birth is taking place, and that should normally take 6 to 8 hours, the spirit is able also to enter the mind, the body and the soul connection, and has its own place in the I'm not Don't get me quote on that. It's not a physical thing, the spirit. So it's not in the body, but it's there and combined and energetically one with the soul and the body. Therefore, if the birth is interrupted, shorter, longer, or traumatic, and that's another thing I want to. And the blue line is actually demonstrating the birth energies. The birth energies that's created and bursting in this 6 to 8 hours. That's where they are, only in this time frame. So therefore, when this birth is interrupted, shorter, longer, or traumatic, mother and child can develop symptoms of unused birth energy or exhaustion of birth energy, which we will get through later. So then, at birth, going through the birth canal, the spirit can come in, and hooray, our baby is born. Yeah. Then the baby, of course, grows up and becomes an adult. And until the day they die, right? What happens by death is exactly reversed. You can maybe see, if you have noticed carefully, that the triangle, which was blue, has changed the color. Why would that be to yellow? Any ideas? Why did I do that? David?
Hopefully the baby and then the person has developed some more skills and learnt some lessons and progressed the vibrational line.
Excellent. That's what I wanted to demonstrate here with the change of color. Exactly. So now let's assume it has learned its lesson and it has actually achieved what it came for. Now everything is reversed. The heartbeat does its last beat. And what is then? No electromagnetic field anymore. Inevitably, the soul has to go back home to the astral world, because that's what they attracted, and the spirit to the world of light, because nothing is holding them anymore together in the body. And we hope that now, or we see that now, this baby, adult person, has upgraded, and it doesn't go back to blue in the realm of blue. It goes now to yellow, where they can meet new souls with the same experience, where they can exchange their experiences and create the desire for what they want to do next in the next life. Which color do they want to go? What do they have to do for it? So here is just this all together, so you can take a screenshot if you want to read through everything, and then we know. Okay, shall I move on? And then you can have a closer look. Okay. So, as you can see, the heart has an amazing function in the spiritual world. Yeah. I mean, who has even thought of that? But this, and it's really physics, right? The attraction of the electromagnetic energy. So the heart, just to recap what we talked about the heart. The heartbeat creates a strong electromagnetic field which holds three energy bodies together: physical, astral, and spiritual. The soul is attracted back to the astral plane and the spirit to the world of light when the heart isn't creating a strong electromagnetic field anymore. That's also called the spiritual law of gravity, if you ever have heard this term. In meditation, deep sleep, and pranayama, which are yogic breathing exercises, the heartbeat slows down. Therefore, the electromagnetic field becomes weaker, and the spirit and the soul can go on a trip home. That's how out-of-body experience is happening, or just simply dreams, because we can detach from our bodies. We are still connected, of course, and it's a very strong connection, so we won't get lost, but we can detach. And we also do that, by the way, when the heart stops, like people with a heart attack or so, right? And they can report that they actually, been out of their body. So that is a very interesting fact as well, and makes clearly shows the case of this spiritual law of gravity and how it works. I want you to think about that the next thing that is built when the baby, when the embryo forms, the heart starts to beat. The first thing that forms is the limb, and it's the hands actually. So the hands are formed from the same tissue that is surrounding the heart that makes the protective layer of the heart. That is actually our skin. This is why touch is so healing. And this is why we love to connect with our hands. We give handshake, we hug, we we pet, we that's natural because it's truly a heart connection. This is how we are basically carrying our heart in on our hand. The heart chakra, remember the chakra card, you might be all familiar with chakra, the concept of chakras anyhow, is in the center of the 7 chakras. It's green, and it's also called the gate chakra or the bridge chakra, which is the turning point from animal nature, the lower 3 chakras, to the spiritual beingness, the upper 3 chakras. So it has this function on all levels, this function to make our spiritual experience on earth possible. So there is a wonderful book, it doesn't talk about this concept of birth, but there is a wonderful book that I can highly recommend, Living, hang on, it's just Living from the Heart by Nirmala, if you want to see if you can get it. Beautiful book I found. More aspects about living from the heart than only what we talked about, and more than just the spiritual law of gravity. So let's talk about the different ways a birth can take place. Let's ask everyone. So Michelle and Tamara, you have already given birth, yeah? Would you like to share how that was? Michelle, how did that happen?
Yeah. So I had both my kids natural birth, but both actually took quite long. My
How long?
birth process. Well, actually, I don't know how you count. You said 6 to 8 hours.
No, the first
by
contractions are normally where you start to count.
first one. Yeah, I don't quite remember. Probably is within that range. I was referring to the length I stayed in the hospital. It took very long for
Yeah,
that to
until you got your
happen.
contractions.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think I
yeah.
started, and then I had they had to do a little induction because I was overdue.
And how was the birth? Both alike? Both children alike?
Mm, my daughter, I think it was, aside from the surprise, because we thought it was a he, and it turned out it was a she. That was a big surprise when we had her. I think her birth process was pretty okay. My son's was difficult. I think he had a big head. So it took some, and then there was the umbilical cord wrapped around, so the doctor had to be very careful turning him. And then it took quite pushing to get him out. His head was big, but there was no other, assistance or anything. I really remember it talking about earth energy. The moment he was out of my body, there was this just profound sense of relief that really release.
Exactly. So I can tell by how you talk about it that you definitely have exhausted all your birth energies, and the children would have that too. So that's excellent.
I have definitely exhausted. Yes.
Very good. How about you, Tamara?
Yeah, my son was first, and it took 18 hours. Very
Oh,
exhausting, very exhausting. Last 2 hours I was falling asleep between contractions. So exhausted.
mm,
But it was nothing, let's say, nothing extra, like Michelle said. It was just that it took very long, and the process of birth was it was really easy in a way that he went out easily, but they all around were very afraid, and then they made this atmosphere very panic, but
afraid of what?
everything there will be some problem in pushing out because it took so long, and I had strength because somehow it came. It was very fast when it came to this
Mm,
point, but the moment to come to this point took whole
yeah.
night and almost whole day. It was very long. So, and he didn't in first hour he didn't get the best breathing and everything because it took so long. And the daughter, it was like perfect birth. No, nothing, it was like I felt it. It was in between this, I think, 8 hours.
Yeah.
I
Right.
didn't feel any bad thing. It was everything was like heaven, comparing to the first.
Mm,
So I have
very
totally
good.
two different, yeah.
Excellent. So we will go in through the slow and traumatic birth after the fast and interrupted birth. So you might find some symptoms there. Um, David, do you know anything from your wife, or were you there? How the birth was of your daughter? Wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a fairly straightforward birth. She came, I think, about 8 hours. Lots of pushing, and I was there all the time, and I caught her.
Right.
She came out.
Excellent. Sounds all you have had very good birth, more or less, good birth experiences. And Yuko, I know you have no children, but do you know from your mother how your birth was? Did she say anything? You are muted.
It took long time.
Ah,
She
yeah.
said it feels like I didn't want to come out yet, but I was overdue, so she had to let me out. And also she said, like Michelle said, she thought I'm a boy, but and when I came out, I was a girl, and she was like, "Oh, I saw boy, but girls," So she always wondered, like, yeah, you have a boy spirit, and yeah, something like this. So mother
All
feels
right.
something.
Do you know
Yeah,
how long it took?
15. I don't know, over 10. If I don't know, it's long, like 15 to like something over 10 years, 10 hours.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Yes.
So that's then the same with Tamara's son. So you will see there are some interesting symptoms you
Mm.
might discover on yourself. So, first of all, we look at the fast, interrupted, and forced birth. Hmm? We talk about that when we talk about a birth of less than 5 hours. Hmm? That means on an energetic level, the birth energies are fully formed but have not been used up completely, because they are there to last at least for 8 hours. Mother and baby are still energetically connected and want to let go of each other to complete the separation, because that is what the birth energies are for. Mother and baby are so close. It's one. Yeah, they are one. and they get used to it and they love it. And then at one stage it needs to be the opposite. Now they need to let go of each other, yeah, and separate. And that to do so, the birth energy is what makes it unavoidable to get separated, yeah. And this letting go is a lifelong struggle for babies who had a fast or interrupted or a forced birth, yeah, because and mothers too, they are literally still in this process of letting go. So there will always be some kind of distance and fight, something in the relationship that they express in many different ways, that is due to unused birth energy. In former times, of course, midwives and mothers knew that. They knew all of this birth energy thing, even if they didn't have a name for it. They might have many names for it that we don't know because it was never put in the dictionary. But what they did is they swaddled the child. That is, they wrapped the child into really tight sheets. I don't know whether you have seen pictures when you wrap the baby in very tight sheets. That is kind of the birth canal extended. So they when they struggle and then they move, they have something to lean against, and and that is where they can actually use up the birth energies that are unused. When they are older, then the mother can play with them the struggle to get free game. There are lots of games that are around this. For example, that the mother has the child on the lap, facing her. She wraps her arms around him or her, and lets the baby, as a game, push hard against the belly with the feet. Yeah, so they're really pushing away, and you're really holding tight for as long as it takes, an hour or two. You can repeat that until the birth energies are actually used up, at least in the child, if not in the mother as well. If this all hasn't happened, we still can help, of course. Yeah, we would do a rebirthing or regression in case of a phobia with the client who has still unused birth energies unknowingly in them. For the mother, we can also do a guided, can also help, of course. If they need help, we can do a guided meditation back to birth. And we can let her go through the giving birth to the child process again to release all her birth energy. So a slow and traumatic birth, that is what we have heard here happened. That is, obviously the birth energies has already been spent and the birth has not finished yet, right? So there's this exhaustion going on where this birth energy is not there. There's like, can it not be over now? It must be over now. This letting go process has been finished on an energetical level, but it's not on a physical level yet. The signs for that has happened is often that the baby or child has a poor concentration and reasoning, like to spend time alone. They don't like water or head underwater because they might have been too long in the womb. Maybe it's impatient and aggressive, wants to get it done with, over with, or feels frustration, fear, anger. Other signs are that it is fast and pushing others out of the way. Bullying is the worst part of that, but like pushing others also, like always wanting to be first and wanting to be there, and not, if somebody's in the way, they want to push them out of the way. That are signs in the in the child that has where all the birth energies have been exhausted. Tamara, any signs of that in your boy when he was small?
I don't understand this spend time alone. He was not really liking the spending time alone. And his anger, and he actually has this anger That's the strongest that I can
Good.
follow here.
Mhm.
It's very hard for me. It's 20 years ago to remember how was he screaming under the shower, but he adores water now.
Yeah.
So, it's quite, I think it's also important how afterwards mother treats the baby. And we can also, I think, do a lot in this early stage to compensate the baby. But he is, he has this anger and a little bit of aggression, impatience. Yeah, this I
Mhm.
can recognize very
Mhm.
much.
Right. Thank you for sharing. Yuko, do you see yourself as a baby or child? Has your mother said anything about that?
About me, but I'm okay, slow. So okay, yeah. I like spending time alone.
Hmm.
It's something related, but I like to be with people. But I need some space,
You're
something
talking
like
about the child. When you were a
that.
child.
When I was child, um, I love water. No, I'm not so impatient. I don't have this so much. Huh?
Good.
No. Yeah. No.
Maybe your birth was not that slow after all. Because what we hear about our birth is not only the mother can really recall the birth, how it was. What we hear, what's been told to us, is a different story of the memories are.
Okay.
Well, I see my daughter checks off most of that list.
Hey? What do you see?
She, I said my daughter checks off most of that list.
She, and your daughter was longer?
Oh, both actually. That was I think like 13 hours.
Ah, yeah, yeah, that would be a slow
More
birth.
more than
Yeah,
more
yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
Spend a
Ah,
long
you see,
time.
okay, so you do see most of it, yeah.
Yeah, she's
Mm,
definitely afraid of water.
right.
Um,
Mm, yeah. So you don't need to, I mean, some may take all the boxes, others just one. Mm? And there are, of course, variations of intensity. As an adult, these children who had a slow and or traumatic birth are often coughing, having skin disease like psoriasis, um, can feel under claustrophobia, yeah, and sometimes in very severe cases, self-inflict wounds. All this to ignite the birth, right? They want to the skin gets dry because the water has long gone, so it's very painful to go through the birth canal. It's not moisture anymore. Hmm? Claustrophobic because they spend too long in the birth channel, and self-inflicting wound because they want to see the blood that is at the end of a birth. That is kind of the sign that it's over. And the coughing is this trying to get the first breath in that they couldn't have because the birth was so long. Now let's talk about an early birth. Before any birth energies have been released. That is before week 38 or whenever the baby isn't ready to leave the womb. Is called, if then the birth has happened, that is called an early birth. Children who has been born early are quite clingy, are quiet and clingy. They have separation anxiety from mother and need mother's energy. Because they have never experienced birth energies, they were never been created, and they feel really dependent on the energy of others. As a child, it's obviously mother's energy. So they are quiet and clingy and really demanding. Interestingly, I know a couple quite close who have had a baby very early in month 7, beginning, I think, even somewhere, month 7. And then, I saw this child, this daughter growing up, and it was absolutely ticking all these boxes. It was amazing to see how that works. They pinch, bite, and scratch as children as well as babies. They like to do that. As an adult, I found that very funny. I think there are many reasons why adults are late, but this is a sign apparently for an early bird. I cannot confirm that on my own experience, but that is apparently a sign of an early bird, is that as adults they are always late. So you can check your friends out now on this and ask them when they how their birth was. So what are we doing with the early birds? We want to bring them back. So we can also do the pushing game to bring them back, but then the pushing game has to be longer. So they need to create the birth energy, and then they need to exhaust them. So that is an ongoing process, probably over half a year or something. But we are not concerned normally with treating children. We are having normally an adult client who we found out has a birth energy problem, and we would do a rebirthing, of course, with them, so they can create and release the birth energies in the regression. Now we have this special case of a cesarean section. I'm actually amazed nobody had a cesarean section. Great, great. There are so many nowadays who have cesarean sections because it has been recommended to them, not for medical reasons, right? Not for obvious medical reasons, more for obvious scheduling reasons in the hospital. And it has really quite a detrimental effect on our world population that we have so many cesarean sections, because in terms of the birth energy and what happens with that, that is something nobody should choose if they would know about it. Yeah. So the cesarean section can be after the birth has started, then it would be an interrupted or a fast birth, same symptoms. But most often, the cesarean section is scheduled and starts before birth has started, right? Excuse me. Oh, I have to take a break. It's 6:30. So we leave it here, 10 minutes.
Well, take care.
Yeah, Maya.
Hello, hello, Bag. Ah,
Yeah,
Tamara, you have a big smile, and you put it.
yeah,
Why was that?
because I found out some new perspective again,
Oh,
and
good.
I'm always
Yeah,
joyful when I see.
it also works, but it makes sense, like you said, it's when something comes and it makes sense to you.
Okay, Tamara, would you like to share what makes you joyful?
What makes me joyful is that when we were observing the long-term birth, I recognized myself a lot inside. As a kid, I was angry. I didn't want to be with people. I was all this. The list is fully almost for me, not for my son, but for me, yes. And then I shared that with my with Yuko.
Because she had a normal birth hours, but she still felt this anger and want to be alone, and all the symptoms that she had as a late birth. So then when I was hearing her experience, and I sensed that maybe it's, of course, it's just imagine her standing in front of her mother, but it's maybe it's passed on from her mother of her mother, like
So my mother had a normal length of birth. I think I was like in between these 8 hours, she always felt very easy me coming and all this, you know. But I have all these symptoms. It's very strange. And then Yuko said that must be from ancestors that you took over the energies,
Um,
you know. So
Possibly.
this resonates with me very much.
Or it was a longer birth and your mother didn't recall. Maybe the birth started earlier for you because the baby is determined when the birth starts.
Okay.
mm,
So it's all
I'll
from the
ch-
perspective of the baby. When the baby is ready and wants to come, that's when the birth energy start. Mm. And
I'll
sometimes the
check.
baby is really eager to come, and the water breaks, and the mother doesn't even understand that she has contractions the first few hours. And then this is how things can happen. So I think that's amazing that you have detected all the symptoms. I would definitely think you do have the symptoms, and I do also think that your ancestors will have the same because you have passed that on to your son. So your son was your first birth, was also a long birth. So there is a likelihood that also your mother was in a longer birth, and maybe your grandmother. So this is how you pass things on, and this is where your ancestral trauma comes in. And we are always repeating, and we have
mm.
to see that in our clients. Yeah,
Mm.
that's the system. We are
Can I
intending to repeat that.
can I just ask something? Because I'm a second child and my brother, older brother, she had a very long birth with him, like all day, 20 hours and more. And he was turned wrongly, you know,
Mhm.
and all the complications.
Mhm.
Was very painful, very long. And is it possible that I already, when coming, I took over his traumas also, you know?
Possible, yeah, of course, everything is possible. Yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah.
he passed away later on when I was age of 8. So somehow it looks for me to took
Hmm.
over the soul's
Yeah,
missions, you know,
yeah.
I don't know.
And
So
this is
Thank
when
you.
interesting from the perspective of a facilitator to understand all that. But when you're working with a client, you wouldn't need to understand that. You would just
Yeah.
observe. You would observe the
Yes.
symptoms. You would observe that that's a history in the family, obviously repeating itself. So you would suggest, and I'm sure your partner has suggested that you have a rebirthing as an adult to be able to cope with the symptoms, as we will
you can,
demonstrate today.
or you can heal the womb, because like you said, if it's a pre-child, her older brother was late birth, so that means that the womb has a memory, or the past has a memory that has a fear and needs to be healed. Or
When Tamara heals it for herself, her grandchildren most likely won't pass that on anymore. And then for healing ancestral trauma, we would use family constellation, not regression. Yeah.
um
Okay. And how was this the other way around?
oh, okay. So I found out when I was telling her about my birth experience. I don't remember so much. It's a later birth. Then Tamara, maybe you can tell me.
You didn't come fully to the body. This is
uh,
how she expressed that she all the childhood felt that she is not fully on the earth and that she didn't want to come to earth actually, and she felt all the split of the body and the mind somehow, and the soul, I don't know. And so I don't remember what was not
okay.
fully
Then
in
she asked me, yeah, she told me something. Then I realized, then when I was hearing her suggestion, then all of a sudden I felt that actually I had fear. I start having that
yes.
fear. Yes. So I have that symptom of late child, that
Mm,
feeling
mm,
of fear of going through, coming to this world. For some reason, this sensation
It was,
came.
yeah, it was a long birth. It was a long birth, so
Mhm.
we came off the list to the fear. That's the most significant for Yuko.
Yeah. And what would you, as the facilitator, Tamara, do with Yuko as a client?
It's again this first interruption, so rebirthing process.
Yeah.
In the constellation.
Yeah.
To combine these two worlds, because
Yeah.
she feels she's not here.
Yeah.
Fully.
So the spirit has not been able to come through.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is typical in a traumatic birth. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Thank you for sharing. And Michelle and David, would you like to share?
Yeah, well, I think none of us could really remember our birth situation. I think I'll talk
I
about
think none
mine.
of us can remember our birth situation.
No, I mean, know about anything, or my mother had told me anything special. So I guess based on that, and also just my own childhood experience until coming to adult, I felt like I don't really have. I have, on the whole, a normal birth. I don't feel I have trauma
Mm-hmm.
associated
Mm-hmm.
with birth.
Mm-hmm.
David and I, we did have a question about the use of epidural during birth.
Is this the spinal
Yeah,
and
the basically anesthesia.
sedation? Yeah.
Yeah, so that helps to relieve the pain during that process. So I wonder whether that does anything to the birth energy.
Well, I don't know it, but if I think about the structure and how birth energies are designed, um, if they are still used, which they are, I suppose, in this
Oh yeah,
treatment.
no, it's very pretty much everybody uses these days.
Yeah. Maybe it doesn't have such a severe impact. Definitely not as an SSA infection.
Mm.
Yeah, I would say. Good. Anything else to add, David, to that?
No, I think it was. I don't think any of the the things we talked about traumatic births really seem to apply. Seem quite normal, but from my perspective, I think because I was a twin, I came out 20 minutes earlier than my sister, and the only recollection, and I don't know where this comes from, is that we were quite premature. But I don't really, I'm never late. I mean, I'm the one who's always on time. I don't really show any of those symptoms, and the only separation issue that I think I ever experienced was more about separation from my sister than from my mother.
That's interesting. Maybe twin births are somehow different.
Yeah, maybe I did wonder that.
Yeah.
And the pinching, scratching, all that kind of stuff, not really. And and I was never clingy because I was always the one just wanting to get away and get out in the world. So.
And how about your sister?
Do you know, it's funny because although we're twins, she's always there, but I can never see her. I mean, I'm so busy doing my own stuff. All I know is that I always take care of her when she needed me. So it was almost like, I've got this imaginary plaything, but I can never see my sister as kids when we're playing, but we played all the time. It's very odd.
Interesting. Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing. So now move on with our chart. So now we talk about postpartum depression, PPD. It's defined as the rejection of the mother towards the baby after giving birth. It has many reasons. But what we are most concerned with in family constellation is that giving birth to a child is a trigger that releases memories of being born, meaning that this is triggering the birth experience the mother went through, went through, yeah, and that is the reason for postpartum depression. Or another common reason for postpartum depression that we can also deal with is an interrupted movement towards the mother, because when the mother, the new mother who has given birth, had an interrupted movement towards her mother, then she would have problems to connect with her baby as well. Yeah, as you know from family constellation, this is passed on to the children. Mm. And a mother who has herself an interrupted movement is not available for the children to any degree. Can be very mild, almost unnoticeable on an emotional level, and can be very severe, which would then look like a postpartum depression or a neglect case. Yeah. So, what we also need to notice is that the postpartum depression itself causes a new interrupted movement in the baby, of course, because the baby is in the state of moving towards the mother, and when the mother is rejecting the baby either physically or emotionally, or both, that is causing in the baby an interrupted movement as well. Hmm? So we would normally deal with adult, clients, and then we would deal with this in a family constellation, as we will see later on, how we perform and facilitate an interrupted movement towards the mother. But in this case, when the interrupted movement is happening at or at around birth, we can also do a rebirthing with the client. So, how do we do a rebirthing? First of all, we need the set and preparation. So, the setup for the rebirthing, and I'm talking in person, not online, is that you need pillows and cushions and blankets and a space, preferable with a carpet, where there are no obstacles, at least 2 meters in a circumference, in a diameter. Yeah, because what is happening is that the client and you will go together down. You start standing, and you will go down. You will eventually lie on the floor. It can happen very suddenly, and you need to make sure you are both safe. Through guiding the client in a meditation, you will go, they will go into alpha state, like we will learn when we do the regression. When they are in alpha state, and that is like a regression, the rebirthing, you guide the client with your words back to the time into the womb of the mother, to the moment when it was the right time to be born. You don't care about what the birth was in real. Rebirthing means we are allowing the client the birth experience if it's how it should have been for a normal birth. That is a rebirth. No, we are not repeating the trauma. We are overwriting the trauma with the information that everything went well. Yeah, everything was as it should be. You guide the client through the whole birth process with your voice and with your whole body language. And this helps if you know how birth feels for a mother and the child. So you can watch videos about that, lots of videos online, how that looks like, how mother and child act, um, and follow this step by step. No? This takes about 40 minutes to an hour, the rebirthing session. Of course, it's quicker than a birth. That's okay, but still, you need to be take your time and be very precise. You know? Like you would tell the client that the wall's coming closer, yeah, that they feel they have no space to be anymore. They need to get out, but they don't want to, and they don't know how to, and that they just have to press with their feet, and all this, you know. You have to visualize for your client how it is to be a baby, and press themselves out of the birth canal until so you need to make sure that they cannot harm themselves, because you have your arm, and that's a major part of it, firmly slung around upper body, where the client has their arms inside, and you are pressing very firmly, like you would be the birth channel that has a contraction. So you would do that very forcefully, and the client would start to struggle, and in this process falls forward, and you have to follow that. You have to hold them, follow that, and then go down with them and still keep them hugging, like very, very tight. So don't let go, so they can still wiggle themselves now lying on the floor out of your arm. And this tightness needs to go all the way to the feet. So you need to really squeeze the whole body and let them wiggle out of your arms on the floor, and really hold them tight, even with your hands, all the way to the feet, so they really feel the birth canal and how they go the whole body through the birth canal out. And then at the end, and then of course you supporting the client to release birth energy through anything: screaming, crying, breathing, coughing, whatever they want to do, whatever they want to express. They should not hold anything back. Yeah. Of course, in this case, you are representing the mother, being the birth channel and doing the birth process with them. So when everything is finished, you would wrap them in the blankets and keep them warm, keep the head in your lap, and say some reassuring words. That's very important, especially to tell them that everything is fine. Yeah, that everything went well. That's the most important part, because they are still in alpha state and they are highly susceptible to words. So you need to be careful with your words and choose them wisely. And you want to choose exactly the words that's indicating that the birth was normal, that everything is fine, both are well, yeah, and that you are happy to have the baby. If you're uncomfortable with being so close to your client at the end, you can also give them a big cushion to hug, as if it would be the lap of the mother, but keep on praising them, because you're still representing the mother. And that is it. So let them take their time, maybe present some tissues, and let them get up in their own time from the floor. And then you can have the deep briefing with your client. And that will be the closing of the session. Any questions for this process? Will I go back? No, I can't go back
Is there
here.
is there a video or something that we can see?
No, there's no video. Malcolm Southwood never took a video of this work, and I don't have a video neither. So if you find probably something public, that would be great, and let us know.
Hellinger, he was doing this session in the Chinese video, I think that was the reverse. He all of a sudden hugging this lady and she was struggling and he didn't let her go and like struggling and like he said, okay, just come out and something like I think that was the
Yeah,
reverse.
yeah, he
Yeah,
did it as well. Yeah, he did it.
uh, in China he did some
Mm-hmm.
session. It's
Yeah,
in YouTube. It's quite interesting. Yeah.
he doesn't call it rebirthing. He calls it um, Festhaltetherapie. That's in English, holding tight therapy or something. That is originated by Irina Prekov. Yeah,
But
but
that's reverse.
yeah, that's the same. Yeah.
Okay.
I repeat, Yuko, he doesn't call it rebirthing. He calls it holding tight therapy. Yeah. Maybe you
This
can share
process,
the link so we can all watch it. That would be great. Do you think you find the link again, Yuko?
I don't remember which one, but the one that you suggested on your list, it has like three because there's three long videos of a session that they recorded in China. Part 3, part 2, yeah, three of them, like 1 hour each, and I don't remember which one.
Oh, it's already on the website.
Yeah, in your website,
Oh
it
yeah,
has
here you
some.
go. Sure,
Yes.
then you will find it there.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
many issues. It's quite interesting to see how he deal with the issues. Yeah.
so
So
that's excellent if you can see that. Obviously, it's hard to explain if I cannot demonstrate it in person. Um, but just imagine the client is in front of you, facing away from you, not you. Yeah. You hold the arms around his upper body or her upper body really tight. Yeah. And then you start to squeeze. And then that will all happen by itself. You only need to hold this grip, not letting it go. And it needs to be really tight. Tighter than you normally would ever hug anybody. So you have to really to lock your hands in. Depends on how strong the person is you are working with. Right? And this
yeah,
is why, you ask a friend or so to practice. And that's exactly what you need. You need people that you can practice with so you can experience it for yourself.
so based on your description, there's a lot of body contact in
Mhm.
this with this
Rebirthing,
approach.
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, and that part you said we could substitute by having the client hold a cushion or something.
Oh, that's just at the end. You still
Oh,
have to
you still
hold
have
them
to
very
physically
tight.
hold.
Yeah, this is just the end
Yeah.
bit. Yeah, where you sit with them. Yeah. Um, we I do that also online, of course. I would not recommend it to do it online if you haven't done it in person before, because you don't really feel, you cannot really guide them if you have never felt it before. But in a regression, you can do exactly the same steps without being in contact with the person. It works, but it doesn't work as strong as it is in with physical contact.
Mm.
Hmm. Other question or anything to add? Good.
How does it work if you've never experienced giving birth?
You need to just watch some YouTube videos. I'm sure they're around. You can do that, David. Um, yeah, you just need the knowledge about it. That's true. Yeah, you don't need to have to gone through it. Mm. We all don't remember our birth as a baby, and not everyone from us is a mother. So we all are, most of them are in the same situation, David. And Bert Hellinger obviously was a man, and he had no children, so he did that masterfully without even knowing. Like I'm guessing exactly why. I don't think he knew about birth energies on a conscious level, but he definitely worked with it. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about interrupted movement towards the mother. An interrupted movement towards the mother is when this, so we have this separation now. Go back a step. What happens after the birth energies have been exhausted? Hmm? There are just this love energy pouring out from the mother to the baby and from the baby to the mother. And how does mother give love after birth? She gives her breast to the baby. So they can have the colostrum and they can drink the milk and they have the warmth of her and the close contact of the body, very close to the heart as well. Yeah? Feeling this heart contact, hearing the heartbeat, that's all important. And that is a movement that is instinctively after the birth energies in the baby. So, as you know from nature, all newborn babies, mammals, of course, hmm, the babies, they have to get up and find the tit of the mother by themselves normally. Yeah, they have a little bit of help by the mother, but not much. You know, they have to fold. Baby horses have to get on their legs, and all the other ones wobbling around and find it. The mother's not lying down and offering her breast. Yeah, this is important because there is this instinct movement of each baby towards the nourishing of the mother. And this is also in humans. Now, babies are not so capable of moving as animals, mm, but you can see this by reaching up, reaching up their neck and trying to find it. And that goes way beyond only getting the nourishment of the mother. This is a movement towards the mother that is that is not overriding, that is um, created after the letting go movement of the birth energy is over. So that first the letting go and then it's moving towards. This is very instinctive and very important. And the baby has this movement towards the mother for at least years 4, 5, 6, 7 years. When this movement is interrupted, we have the trauma, right? An early childhood trauma. And this interruption can be natural, like the baby can be sick, the mother can be sick, there can be all sorts of things. It could be even a small issue that nobody noticed in the family that is causing then an interrupted movement towards the baby, because what happens here, as every trauma, is the perception of the baby that it can't go to the mother. It's not factual, okay? So the baby perceives it as impossible to reach towards the mother to get her love and her nourishment and her care. And when this happens, when this interruption is there, that is causing this trauma in the baby that they carry with them as adults as well. Now, as a result of this, they won't be able. They are their subconscious mind is hindering them in going really close to their mother because they don't want to be hurt again. That's remember the third reason for the function of the subconscious is to avoid pain, emotional pain. So they don't let the child fully connect with the mother, but the urge to do so is still there because the movement is still there. It's just interrupted. So they cannot let go of the mother neither. That's a typical sign of an interrupted movement. It occurs from as early as in the womb. When, for example, when they hear that the mother wants to abort it, yeah, that's an interruption because the movement is already there towards the mother. all the way to maybe 4 or 5 years, depends on the maturity of the child. Whenever the child feels this need from the mother and this helplessness without it, yeah, I wouldn't say it occurs older than max 7 years. That is also when all children come out of theta and alpha state finally. So then they can also stand for themselves and express themselves and their needs. So the movement towards the mother is not so instinctual anymore, and the interruption not severe. It can be a short interruption, or it can be a long one. The mother can go away, or the child is in hospital, the mother is not able to visit. That was in former days was the standard, the default. Yeah, they couldn't be together there. The mother has to go to work, um, or the mother has her own interrupted movement and is emotionally not available for the baby. Or it is later in time when sometimes in some cultures the children are given away to relatives to raise them because they have too many, and relatives have not enough, and then they think, oh, they can have two of my children, and that's all causing interrupted movement. signs signs of an interrupted movement, what I just said, in the child or the adult, then they want to be close with their mother. They are not completely dismissing the mother, but they are always angry at the mother. They have a deep-rooted anger at the mother that they might express or might not. They might camouflage it, but that is there. And in a family constellation, it comes out. How do we see that in a family constellation? We see it by a child facing the mother, not able to go to the mother, doesn't want to get close. In a family constellation, you have a child and the mother, and when the child looks at the mother and smiles and wants to fly into her arms, there is no interrupted movement. But if the child representative is standing there looking at the mother and feels it cannot move forward, or they don't want, and most often, and that's a clear sign for an interrupted movement, wants the mother to come to them. That's a sign for an interrupted movement. So what to do is, that's what we go through step by step today, if my voice holds up. It's always the same procedure. You can just learn it and apply it and practice it with friends and family, and it will become second nature. And there are little surprises normally when you facilitate interrupted movement. What about the father? Yes, there's also the possibility that the interrupted movement is towards the father. Of course, the instinctive energies when the baby is born is just towards the mother, not the father. But later on, after a year or so, there's also this movement towards the father, not for nourishment, not for care, but more for the security and the stability that the father is symbolizing in the life of a child. So the definition of it is every child is drawn towards their mother in search for nourishment, care, love, and protection. Without this instinctive energies, the child wouldn't be able to secure its life, right? That's what the trauma comes from. It fears about survival. If the and of course, remember guilt. Guilt is also there. The child always thinks they are not good enough. There must be a reason why the mother is supposedly rejecting them. It's not necessarily rejection, but they perceive it as such. If the child is separated from its mother within the crucial first years of its life, this forward movement comes to an abrupt halt. The child is traumatized, afraid of dying, and loses trust in the mother to be able to protect it. But the energy, this movement energy, this moving towards the mother energy is still there. The child wants to go to the mother but fears it can't do that. And that's exactly how the adult person, that you might know from an acquaintance or so, a family member, acts. And that's exactly how a representative looks in a family. So we have all kinds of reasons for that: accident, illnesses, hospitalization. Mother dies during birth, giving birth. Of course, that's a massive interrupted movement, or gives it away to adoption or anything like that. Or the mother leaves the family, leaves the child behind with the father, or the mother is unable to look after the child. So most often you see this, the reason for interrupted movement that you see in the adult lies anywhere between conception and 4 years. So rarely more than that. Most often it has to do with the birth, or straight after birth, or within the first year or two of birth. We talked about it can also be a PPD. What interrupted movement is not is when the client complains about what the mother did or didn't do. Yeah, that can have many reasons. They can have a displacement with a former partner of the grandmother or something like that. That's not a sign of an interrupted movement. Only sign of an interrupted movement is the only way to see it is to ask two representatives to represent mother and child and see how the child is reacting towards the mother. That's the only way to see it. So no, don't assume because somebody is not happy with the mother, they have an interrupted movement. Signs outside of a family constellation can be, but don't have to be, hyperactive children, the disregard of the mother, can be talking negatively about the mother, but always combined with can't let go of the mother neither. So always looking for contact and relationship with the mother, but then not being happy about it. That's the typical sign outside of a family constellation for an interrupted movement. The family constellation can't go towards the mother and wants the mother to come to them. In the family constellation, as in real life, it's always expressed as anger, anger towards the mother. Another sign is that the adults who have an untreated, uninterrupted movement, they can't stay in relationships. They normally leave relationships, or they can't find a fulfilled relationship neither. So what can we do here in the family constellation workshop? You have two representatives, mother and child, facing each other. The child will look at the mother will look at the child. So you would ask the child as a facilitator to go towards the mother. And they would say they don't want to. They would even say, I want the mother to come to me. That's not what happens. It is paramount that the mother stays where she is. You cannot allow her to move even an inch. No movement of the mother. The mother cannot walk. If the mother starts to walk towards the child, you have to send her back. She needs to stay where she is. Because the movement has to come from the child, not from the mother. If the child doesn't want to go, we have our word, and you all know the word, the magic word that makes them want to go. What is that?
Please.
Yes, please. Exactly. Please, I need you. Please, I need your love. Please, please, please. Most, no, I cannot say most, but if this is enough, then the child representative can slowly move towards the mother, repeating, please, I need you, until they are there. and then hug the mother. If this doesn't happen, which is possible, the child needs to be smaller. How do we make them smaller? We ask them to go on their knees or even lying on their belly, even lying down. Still saying please. If it's a very severe interrupted movement, it goes to the extent that they're lying flat on the floor, hands reaching out forward towards the feet of the mother, yeah, and still saying please to the mother. That's as small as they can be. They need to be small to feel the need of the baby, of the mother's love and nourishment. Remember, we take the time away. So the representative that we are working with for the client is now exactly that in that time where this trauma occurred, right? Therefore, you always speak in the present tense. Mother is not moving. I can't emphasize that enough because most mothers want to rush to the child. That's not healing. It doesn't do anything for the child, for the adult, for the client. Finally, when this movement has happened, the child depends on where the representative is, either on their knees or standing up. When they're on their knees, if they hug the legs of the mother representative. When they are standing, they hug the mother under the arms. The mother's arms are on top and the child's arms are underneath. Yeah, they can make themselves a bit smaller if they are not small enough. And as a facilitator, we are encouraging this hug with words like keep your heart open, keep breathing, breathe in the love of your mother. Yeah? Feel how the mother flows from her heart into your heart. And also, when the client is present in this constellation at this stage, latest at this stage, you would ask your client if they want to stand in for themselves. Because it has a stronger impact if it do it themselves. And you would ask them at any stage of this work. But normally you wouldn't ask too early because you might compromise the 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 movement, the success of the movement. But once they are there, then you would ask the client to stand in. If they want to, you don't have to. I mean, that's all, of course, voluntary, but if they want to. So they take in the breath, they take in through breathing in the energy, the love, the nourishment from their mother. And finally, this love can flow, the heart is open, and they are released from the trauma, from the early childhood. And this is also facilitation you don't do once. I have seen it many times because we have multiple interruptions with our mothers often. So it's very common. This is why we have that all the time in family constellation workshops or when we work with new clients. That is normally the first thing that comes up. Remember what I talked to you yesterday at the beginning of the module? These early childhood traumas need to be resolved first before we can go deeper in the family system. And the interrupted movement is an early childhood trauma. And you see that doing Bert Helling, I don't know whether there are so many videos about, but he had to do that himself also a lot of times, right? Not stopping, but coming through and through and through. So, is there anything else to come? Yeah. First of all, questions about this. Can you picture that? How that looks like? And I'm sure when you go to your local workshops, if they're facilitated properly, you will see this interrupted movement heaps. And you might have your own. It's always very healing to do your own. Any questions to this part? You good? And of course, you see that when you come on our practice workshops and open workshops, you cannot see it, but you can hear me facilitating it. And it's pretty much, it's a very simple facilitation. So the words are most important. So you really don't need to see the two persons. I mean, you can easily picture how they look when they do it online as well. So you can do this work as I do, also remotely and in one-on-one sessions. You don't need necessarily representatives to do that. You can do the same with objects. Like I use figurines. Or a spiritual constellation, meaning a visualization. It's like a regression, really, if you will. Where then, but the steps are all the same. You just have to guide your client more to see it actually in front of his inner eyes clearly. Yeah. So yeah, they need a little bit more hints and more help to see it. So what we do when we are remote is we do this regression to childhood. We let the client face the mother and say, please, I need you. Please, I need your love. Please, I need your nourishment. All the same words, nothing different there. The client completes the movement that has been interrupted in this regression or visualization. Instead of hugging a person, they hug a pillow. So they would need to have a pillow wherever they are. Yeah. Especially when we do that online. This is why we always need a pillow there for each participant. There are other needs for hugs, but this is a very important one. And otherwise, the interrupted movement is not completed if the hug hasn't taken place. So, what if the mother cannot face or look at the child? Then we know that she has her own interrupted movement. So we need to facilitate her movement towards her mother first, and then to her child. And that can be multiple generations. That doesn't need to end there. So you always start at the oldest. You always start there where the mother has love for her child. That's where you need to start. You can only work with an interrupted movement when the mother has love and is open to receive her child and not rejecting it. So you can picture even I had that repeatedly, 7 generations of mothers, all with an interrupted movement, but the first one. And then they would all stand in a row, one after the other, and the first child at the front is the one that's your client, but you don't work there. You work with the last one, the ancestor, and you would ask the child of the ancestor to turn around and look at the mother and do the interrupted movement with them. And once this is finished, they turn around, look at their child, and it's like magic. First, they couldn't look at them, and now they are smiling and are glowing and can't wait to receive their child. It's so simple. And then this is performed through all generations. If an interrupted movement doesn't work, like whatever it is, the child wouldn't move, it goes on the knees, it says 100 times please, does everything, nothing, yeah? We are not giving up, yeah? We can also look if there's an entanglement in the family by choosing another representative, yeah? Also, the mother might have to release trapped birth energies from her birth, yeah, which is her trauma, not the baby's trauma. Yeah, so when the child is stuck, look for the other mothers, especially the grandmother. If the grandmother and the mother are open, towards oh yeah, I talked about that. So that's another point. That's when the child has to be as small as possible to come into the state of receiving, instead of rejecting. What I wanted to say is, in a rare occasion, I might not have it on my chart. In rare occasions, you can skip the generation of the mother. If the mother isn't able to look at the child, no matter what you do, but the grandmother is able, then the child can receive the love from the grandmother. Yeah, but that is not by default. It's really a rare occasion. Yeah, so before you have to exhaust everything else. If the child is a boy, it might be entangled with the father who is angry towards his wife. Yeah, so when you only see anger in this child representative, so try the rather me than you dynamic. That would be one. If nothing works, you break it up, of course. Right? That's fine. We always do that. Because whatever steps have been enabled before that, where it stopped, are enough in this constellation. Yeah. So you need to be confident to break it up and not try to fix anything. Because that was all that was possible for the client at that moment. And it was enough. Yeah. Because the movement is taking place anyhow. The movement is continuing. So with the interrupted movement towards the father, it is absolutely the same procedure, nothing different. You just don't, instead of saying, I need your nourishment and care, you would say, I need your security and stability for life, for my life. Yeah. So we have here a video. Let me just check. It is how long it is. Yeah, 60 minutes. So what I suggest is that I put that on the video recording at the end, so you can watch it there. Yeah. So we are not overdoing this course. This is a interrupted movement performed, but it's virtually, as you can see, obviously. So you only hear what we are saying and how they feel and where they look, but you have to picture, like they have to picture, the body movement. Yeah. Okay. Oh, actually, hang on. Let's go back. I thought we have more to come, but we don't. So before we watch it, are there any questions? I think I go back and we watch it together. Are there any questions? Let me just find this.
I need to go to work, so not to interrupt after, because it's 8 minutes left. So I will leave now. It's okay, and then I will watch the video.
Yeah, on the recording, eh? That's fine. That's fine.
Yes. So
Everybody
I'm not
else
in the
wants
rush.
to leave. Everybody else wants to leave or want to watch the video with me.
Yeah, but I really need, so I'm sorry. So see you tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Bye.
See you tomorrow. You want to stay for the video? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And when you look towards Sarah?
Can't see her.
Sarah, what has changed when your parents came?
I feel like I'm being left out somehow.
You don't feel connection?
I'm a bit scared of my dad.
Yeah.
I can see cares from my mom.
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like I'm left out.
Mm-hmm. Mariella, was there something in the early childhood of your daughter that she was separated from you?
Only for a couple of days when she was born, and I went home immediately with her, like on the same day from the hospital, because I had my parents and I felt I had support at home. And but then 4 days later, we had to go back into hospital, and she had to stay there because she was what's the term in English? She was suffering a little bit of yellowish ectestering. What's the term? Anyway, it's a condition that sometimes affects certain babies when they don't receive enough sunlight. In fact, Ivan had it, and I had it slightly, but with the sunlight, it was enough for us. In Amber's case, she needed to be under the lamp.
Yeah, that's what we have here. We have an interrupted movement towards the mother. Sarah, look at Nam Shakti. Look at your mom. Hmm? Can you go towards your mom? Doesn't look like it. Hmm? No. Say to your mom, Sarah, please. Please, mom.
Please, Mom.
Very good. Please, mom, I need you.
Please, Mom, I need you.
I'm lost without you.
I'm lost without you.
Want to hug her.
But she needs to come first. Nam Shakti. She's not there.
I know. I can see her now, though. I couldn't
Yeah.
see her before, but I can see her now.
Look
when
at
she said
her.
that to me.
Look at her and say, I'm here.
I'm here.
I'm always here for you.
I'm always here for you.
Always.
Always.
Let's sit down. Nice breathing. Sarah, look at your. Can you look at her? Can you look at Namsha? Can you see her? Mm. Can you go towards her a few steps?
A few small steps.
Very good. Just go as far as you can. How much distance is still there?
I think I'm originally like 10 steps away. Right
10
now
steps?
it's seven
Okay.
steps.
Very good. Very good. Just stay there. Look at your mom and say again, please, mom.
Please, Mom.
I am afraid to die without you.
I'm afraid to die without you.
I need you.
I need you.
I need your love, your nourishment, and your care.
I need your love, your nourishment, and your care.
To survive.
To survive.
Yeah. Deep breathing. Peter, I'm so little.
I'm just a little.
Yeah. And all I want to do is go to you.
All I want to do is go to you.
And get the nourishment and care I need.
And get the nourishment and care I need from you.